Hello, hello, hello. My name is Reverend Monica Bowman.
And I am Dr. Aisha Francis.
And this is
the Chili Grits Podcast.
And we are so elated that you have decided to join us today. We have been exploring so many sayings from our upbringing in the South that has shaped our leadership. And so that's the theme of Chili Grits Podcast, is to take all of those things that have shaped us and share that experience with you.
Yes. And learn together.
Because what we've discovered on this journey with each other is that, all sayings are not understood the same way. True. And not even said the same way. Yes. Based on where you are in the South. And some of those sayings aren't even necessarily quote unquote Southern or originated there. Mm-hmm. But as Aisha said in our first episode, it's the South in my house.
That's right. If it's said in my house, I call it Southern.
It's from the South.
So we love it. So listen, we have been exploring different ideas and concepts and different sayings. And so today's saying is one that resonates with Monica. So what's the saying of the day?
Yeah, so I grew up saying this or heard it around me. It's how to make $1 out of 15 cents.
A dime and a nickel.
See, I haven't heard that one. Oh, that's the add-on.
No, that's how I learned it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know that version.
How to stretch a dime and a nickel.
Oh, okay. Is there another variation of this?
There might be lots, but yes. That's the one I know. Like, how do you stretch a dime and a nickel, which is the same thing. How you make $1 out of 15 cents.
Or make $1 holla. Have you heard that one before?
No.
Okay.
But I've heard, wait a minute, there's one that has to do with pennies. Something like, somebody's going to know this, I hope. It's like squeeze something to the buffalo hollers. It's like from Buffalo Nickels or something like that. Yes. So I think it's from that. So similarly, like how you pinch, penny pinchers.
Yes.
Those kinds of terms.
So clearly there's lots of variations.
There are.
of this saying. But I'll just give you a little insights on where I heard this. Mm-hmm. So there is a song by the great, not Master P. I'm switching up rap artists. Don't judge me out there for all the people. It's TuPac.
Yes, Pac.
Listen, don't judge me. Please don't judge me. So it was TuPac.
No judgment song.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so it was a part of one of the lyrics to his song. But where I grew up in Louisiana, there is a rapper by the name of Master P.
Yes, there is.
And
it's a good businessman, too.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Master P. I don't know if you ever listened to this, but this man was revolutionary, right? So where I grew up in Louisiana, so I remember getting like the burned CDs.
Mm-hmm. Because the people would like sell out of the trunk
come
into the beauty salon.
Yes. And so this is before he blew up. And so he's from New Orleans and I'm from Lake Charles. And, his music was just so amazing, right? And so it's been interesting. He was a businessman that chose not to sign with the record label.
Went out on his own.
He did, and he built his own empire. Mm-hmm. And so there was this song that it was a part of his lyric, and it was, when it's the chorus of a song, it's like repeated, how to make $1 out of 15 cents, how to make $1 out of 15 cents. And so, of course, these sayings did not come from Master P or TuPac, or maybe they'll challenge me on this. But I know before I heard it on those, those songs or those tracks, it was a part of the community. Mm-hmm. And so for me, how to make $1 out of 15 cents was what I call the Susie Orman of like the deep South where I grew up.
That was your financial literacy.
That was my financial literacy.
I love it.
Yeah. And so it really did shape me to the point where when I went to college and really more so grad school, right? I grew up very, 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 let's just say very humble beginnings, right? And so when I went off to school, this is a true story. My mom gave me about $60 to open up a bank account, and the rest is history. That's it.
That was it.
That was it. Yeah. And so it's very remarkable that I ended up here living in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And my beginning of starting off my professional journey, which was college, was with a bank account with $60 in it.
So you had to learn how to make $1 out of
15 cents. Make $1 holler.
Yeah.
Like all of those things. And so when I was in college, I remember like the struggle of our graduate school. You know, you're a little older. You want to kind of hit the scenes, be out there. It was Atlanta. It was hot Atlanta, right? And so I remember from a social perspective, every time I would go out, I gave myself a $20 limit. Now, I don't know what inflation is on that today. Are we talking about $100, $200 on that?
I hope not. I hope you can still go somewhere for $20.
You cannot go anywhere for $20.
I'm gonna have to challenge that. Like, where could you go?
Not
for
in
$20?
Boston.
No, then I would just do free things to do in Boston.
Okay, I'm not sure. I'm not
Listen,
sure.
y'all have to. I think you can still do some stuff for free. Now, eating is a
So
whole.
that's
That if you want to
Yeah.
eat, that's a whole different thing. And don't even start on a drink because that's barely enough to have a drinking tip.
We're talking about coffee shop experiences.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
But I
put the $20. That resonates with me. That's about
$20
enough.
limit.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
That was it.
right. And so that came because from a very early age, I realized that I did not have tons of resources, right? And that with the resources I did have, I had to figure out how to leverage them in order to propel me forward, right? And so that's just like a little story about how I did that. But my whole life, quite frankly, is a testament of that very early saying about how to make $1 out of 15 cents. Every decision that I have made in my professional journey, in my academic journey, my financial investments, all of that goes back to that one saying, because I knew that I didn't have those individuals in my life that said to me, oh, Monica, yes, that's brilliant. I'm going to just invest in whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah.
That's not how that worked for particularly people like myself or people that come from a background that just, you're not surrounded by other people with lots of resources. So you have to be really strategic and be very conscious about every single dollar that you spend.
I agree. And I think that the way that showed up for me is in this hyper awareness about the earning potential of the profession that I chose. And so I knew from an early age that I wanted to go into education.
Yep.
And because I had lots of educators in my family, it's like, well, we don't earn a lot.
This is true.
But we're comfortable. They all had their own homes and, they had enough. Right. But it was also very clear, but you don't earn a lot. So the place in my life where I remember making the first major financial decision where there was an opportunity cost. In other words, there was something that I wanted that was more expensive than another choice. And I chose the more affordable, practical, choice and gave up the other opportunity, and that was my college decisions, college going. And I think that is still true for a lot of people who are looking for the most affordable and accessible college option. And I did make a decision early on to attend an HBCU, and I remember our guidance counselor, I can't remember her name, but my high school guidance counselor essentially telling me, you will get 0 scholarships because they have no scholarships to give. HBCUs don't give scholarships. So I think you should apply to these particular schools. So I wanted to attend Spelman. My mother's a Spelmanite, have several other family members who are Spelmanites. And so I wanted to attend. And, I knew my family couldn't afford it in terms of paying outright. We would have had to take out loans, parent loans, personal loans, these kinds of things. And at the time, it would have probably been about $85,000 to $100,000.
Yeah.
So I know that doesn't sound like necessarily a lot back in the day, but for me, that was a lot. So the way our family philosophy around spending was like, just don't go into debt. It was a lot of hyper awareness about not owing anybody anything, and being practical and prudent. Like, yes, you could have, a caddy, but do you need that? We're going to buy a Ford.
Yeah. Yes.
So
yes.
I think those things. So anyway, long story short, I chose Fisk University. I'm so happy I chose Fisk. Go Bulldogs. In the moment when I was making those decisions, it was a financial decision.
Yeah.
And I did mourn that opportunity to go away to school, and so I was like, well, no matter what, because I did receive a tuition scholarship. So just so y'all know, HBCUs do have scholarships. They do offer scholarships. So we don't want to perpetuate that myth. They do offer scholarships.
And acronym moment. Historical Black colleges and universities.
They do offer scholarships. So I was not given good information by the guidance counselor to just blanketly, let those schools go or write them off because I wasn't going to receive financial aid. So the point is that I went to Fisk University, had my little 6 weeks, probably the first 6 weeks I was like moping around. But after that, it was on and popping. I had a great experience, met people from all over the world, not just, from all over the diaspora. Expanded my boundaries, probably learned a whole lot of sayings. I need to actually think about new sayings that I learned in college. And I made a prudent decision and came out with very little debt. I still had some because I chose to live on campus, and my scholarship was a tuition scholarship. And I said, look, I'm willing to take that. I'm willing to take on that scholarship. I'll write that promissory note so I can have an on-campus experience. But it was a choice that I made. And in retrospect, I appreciate the lessons that I learned. I think it was a great long-term benefit for me that I was not under this debt burden. And so I paid off my student loans by 26.
Yeah, good for you.
Even though I was in grad school, I would just pay a little bit. I didn't have that much. I had some, but not a lot. And so I think that, in the context of a cultural system that's been inequitable, where most people of color, whether it don't matter what color you are, but most Black and brown folks, Asian folks, we do not have the resources because we worked for free for 400 years.
Yes.
Not because we were not smart and entrepreneurial and because we don't know how to save and all of these things that people place on us.
Yep.
There's structural inequity. There's a whole reason. And that means that we do have to make money last.
Yes. And wait, can I just take a moment? I just want to just celebrate you, Aisha, because a lot of times when people get to the stage in their lives and their careers, or let me take a step back, when they get to the place where they have to choose where to go to college, right? Whew, the pressure around that is just remarkable. Mm-hmm. And since I've moved here to Cambridge and the Northeast, it is really... the pressure is immense.
Yes.
This is Ivy League country for those that do not know. There's you twirl around 3 times, you're going to hit at least 5 Ivies.
Right.
Around here. So what I want to say, and I want people to take away, whether you are a parent that is in the process of coaching your children to move to the next phase in their career, or if there are young people that listen to this, that whatever your decision is, trust yourself to be able to care for yourself, to be able to get to the place that you want to be.
Regardless.
Yes. Like at the end of the day, like it feels like the most consequential decision.
That's right.
At that moment. But fast forward to where Aisha and I are now.
We here.
And this woman is the president of a college people.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So just that's a side note.
No, it is true. It is true. You're going to get where you're going to get. What God has for you is for you.
Yes.
It's not predicated on pedigree. It really isn't.
No.
It's predicated on, the best options for you at the time. And, you have to own your choices. And I do think own your choices, and then also give yourself the opportunity to celebrate them.
Yes.
And, fine, you make tough decisions, wish it wasn't that way, all of those things, feel all of those feelings. I felt all of those feelings.
And they're real.
And they are real feelings, right? And I do, even as I had the experience that I have, and same for you, part of me, I do want to be able to kind of give my kids like, oh, you can go anywhere. But then another part of me is actually, no, we're going to have some conversations about budgets
Yes.
and long-term aspirations to the extent that you know them when you're 16, which I think is a whole other thing that we like. Why do we expect
It's a
people
lot of
who are
pressure
16 to know?
I know.
Right? So we're going to have all of these kinds of conversations, and I do think it's important to bring in some context about, look, if we're trying to make these dollars stretch. Money doesn't grow on trees.
They do not. Yeah.
There is a responsibility, I think, that the next generation has to say, listen, if you do this, there's more money for X and
Yes.
Y.
Yeah.
And it's not just about keeping it in the parental pockets. It was more money for myself. And that was a conversation for my own future, right?
Yes,
So
indeed.
that then enabled me to purchase a home sooner than I might have been able to if I had these debt burdens. So while it seems like your choices might be foreclosed in the moment, you're saving so that you can have more choices in the future.
Later, yeah.
So it's like that. What is that saying? It's not a saying. What is that called? Delayed gratification.
Yes, yes. So Aisha, I want to come from it from a different perspective because, so, my background, I grew up very, just poor. Sorry, Mom, if you're listening to this. She doesn't like me to say the P word, but it's
I can tell you struggling with that. I am very humble, and I grew up,
I struggle with the whole conversation, so it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
I also, and I don't talk about this public, I also had an undiagnosed learning difference, and it wasn't diagnosed until my last year of graduate school, which is
grad school.
Grad school. So that's a long,
that is a long time.
Yep. And so I mastered the strategies, the workaround strategies.
Not uncommon in our communities.
No,
I know
it's not.
several other people who was like not until they got to medical school
did they
learn.
Yeah, and so as a result, I had the grades to get into college, but I did not have the grades to get consistent scholarships.
Oh, that's the difference it made. I see.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's so many young people out there, or people in general, right? And I'm very curious to hear if this resonates with other people, that because of like just life circumstances, that you have to sign the note when you go to college and take out those loans. And so what I struggle with sometimes in the public sphere around how we have these conversations around debt in and of itself is not a bad thing.
Right.
Right. But what I learned as I was doing my kind of passion, going back to like, you can do and be whatever you want to. No, you need to think about it. And you need to think about the things that as you take out debt, what will then repay you. Right. And so one of the reasons that I am not in a pulpit right now is because by my last year of divinity school, I did a joint master's degree in urban policy and divinity because I saw the writing on the wall. I was like trusting my inner voice to say, no, you need a backup plan here. Yeah. So when I saw what happened to women, particularly, I'm ordained in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, right? When I saw where they go, right, they get sent to like Willacoochee, Georgia.
I was gonna say the Podunk. I'm sorry if you live in a small
but
the places that don't have places
they
that do not have
the resources, right,
to compensate you monetarily.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what happens to women in ministry, you then are put in a position where you go somewhere, you get paid a very minimal salary.
Right.
Then you have to get another job to then take care of yourself. Then you have these student loans, right?
Yeah.
So when I started to put it all together, I was like, yeah, this ain't gonna work. And I started to make those decisions from a financial perspective that would set me up for success. Because the reason you go to college is, yes, for passion. You want to be fulfilled. And I think we talked about this on our last episode around the privilege around all of that whole conversation.
Right.
But you go to college to then position yourself to be in a better financial situation.
Yes, to earn
earn
a living,
money,
to
and
earn a living at a different rate,
and to build wealth.
Yeah,
right. And so when I started to get that understanding and really build off of this saying, you got to make $1 out of 15 cents, right? And so it turned from like $1 out of 15 cents to thousands of dollars with my student loan debts.
No, it's true. And, you know, I had a similar recognition. And I think that's what was happening, at 17 years old was, listen, my family already said, educators don't make that much money.
Right.
So why come out burdened?
Yeah.
And I didn't know how much they made. It's not like I circled back and said exactly how much is it and how much. I didn't do that. I just took them at their word to say, I understand they don't earn that much. And then when it came time for graduate school, as I progressed in my career, seeing what the compensation was for adjuncts and seeing how many people, this was in the early 2000s, were moving into adjunct careers. It's like, you know what? This isn't as stable as I thought it was. This is nice work if you can get it, but not everybody gets it. And if you don't, you have to be able to pivot your skill set to a non-traditional academic career. You have to be able to think about, other pathways for yourself so that you can be independent and save. So, I think it's interesting the way in which the common terms, the proverbs, even though, actually Susie Orman was big, and so was Dave Ramsey in Nashville around the time that I was in college and certainly graduate school. So that was accessible because, she would just be on television, telling you all these things, right?
Yeah.
Just bringing it to the people, to the masses. I appreciate that. But even before that, I was not conscious of Susie Orman at 17 years old when I was sitting at my grandmother's kitchen table like, dang, I really want to go to Spelman, but that ain't going to happen.
But you knew how to make $1 holler.
But I knew. And no one made me do it. It wasn't like my parents, and I appreciate that about them, my grandparents. They didn't say, girl, you better tear that. They did not do that. They let me navigate and negotiate that. And I think that it all permeated from these kinds of sayings, how do you make $1 out of 15 cents, so folks were depositing in us what they knew how to deposit.
Yeah, and how to preserve, right? Their lives, their livelihood, their families, right? And so, as we evolved as it relates to our opportunities, for me, that came along with me, right? And so for a person that had to take on the debt, right, then I had to figure out, okay, this is my reality. It is what it is. Yes, I'm still paying on my student loans. Shout out there to everybody that's still paying on it, right?
That's right.
And yes, I had that debt and I was still able to build a career. I'm not going to say it wasn't painful. It was painful at times. There were moments when I would just curl up in a ball and I just couldn't see my way out. But I went back to that saying and just started thinking strategically about how do I position myself to earn more money. And in addition to that, then I got to a place where I'm like, okay, how do I leverage my resources to then build wealth?
Right.
Because those are two different conversations.
That is.
And so I'm grateful that I am in a place on my journey to be in a leadership role that then allows me to be able to care for myself, but also to be in a position to then build wealth for my family.
And shout out to Master P. Hats off to him, because this is what he was talking about.
It is what he was talking about.
Listen, you got to have money, your money working for you, making money while you sleep. Like those kinds of concepts. Like, what does that mean? It's just enough to pique your curiosity to understand what is an income stream. What is he talking about with all these businesses?
Yes.
What is this hustle about? And really, it's about what you just shared.
Yeah, and Aisha knows this, and everyone close to me know that I struggle when it comes to like the whole like rap industry. I'm one of those like old school people. I hate hearing the N word. I don't want to hear the B word and all of that stuff, right? But once you kind of give yourself permission to move past that stuff that you struggle with, because you just, it's like one of those sayings, you eat the meat and you spit out the bones. Yeah, so listen to that one. Once I gave myself permission to do that, when I was a kid, like listening to this, like, yeah, we're like dancing, having a good time. And I was always a feminist, even at age 12, his words, Master P's words, my grandmama's words were being ingrained in me.
Yeah.
And it set me up to then be in the place that I am today, despite, the not being diagnosed with a learning disability, despite the student loan debt. I have been able to lean on that term that then guided me to Susie Orman. I love her. Like she's really helped me think about how to think about my finances in a way way. But if it wasn't for how to make $1 out of 15 cents or make $1 holla, I would have never gotten to Susie. You know.
Yeah. No, I think it made it cool. It made it cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And so everyone out there, just think about, how do you make $1 out of 15 cents, and how do you make $1 holla, and give yourself permission, you know, to pivot and do the things that you need to do to set yourself up for the success that you need and how you define success. Because your success may not look the way Aisha and I's look. It may not be the multimillionaires out there, but everyone has the opportunity to create and build for themselves when it comes to their finances. So define that for yourself, make your goals, and go after them.
Go get it.
Yeah. Well, we will see you next time.
Absolutely.
And thank you for listening
to Chili Grits Podcast.
Chili Grits Podcast.
Out here having fun.
Yes, indeed.
Take care, y'all.
Bye.